If you were tasked with the design of a predator so stealthy, most people would only know of it from folklore. A killer so powerful, it could bring down prey 10 times its mass on its own, and one that wouldn't be content with tearing, but would also want to crush anything and everything it could catch. Well, you'd be describing a mustelid. They already exist, and they are some of the most underrated animals around us today. But go back a few million years and they were downright horrifying. In this video, we're going to look at perhaps the most formidable mammalian predator that ever roamed the earth. And we're exploring it through the wider context of a family of carnivores that simply does not get enough respect. And stick around because we'll finish with some of the largest animals a monster mustelid could tackle. To get there, though, we need to start with some serious championing of the family as a whole. Mustelids seem to fly under everyone's radar. Sure, skunks are known to be smelly, and honey badgers are notorious for being apparently immune to death. But they are just two of a diverse family of carnivorans, all of which totally rock. Perhaps the most secretly epic of them all is the weasel, a tiny animal that can kill prey 10 times its mass. And if the smallest mustelid is the so-called least weasel, then the most weasel would have to have been Megalictis ferox, a long-deceased mustelid just slightly lighter than an African lion. There's an argument to be made that mustelids are held in line by some universal equilibrium that restricts certain powers just to maintain cosmic balance. Simply put, the world isn't ready for a lion-sized mustelid. Mustelids have it all. They are sleek, they're cute, smart, and absolutely ferocious. They're H.R. Giger's worst nightmare. Mustelids range in size from the sea otter, which grows up to about 45 kilograms, down to the pocket-sized least weasel, a 100-gram mini killing machine. And they're all cute. Stinkiness aside, skunks are endearing, playful, and reluctant to ever use their butt defenses at all. Badgers, too, are about the most appealing, cuddly animals, especially when they're babies. Yet all of these fluffy friends are mass murderers by nature. Like the deceptively innocent-looking house cat, mustelids are capable of alarming feats of brutality. But unlike the house cat, they don't limit themselves to easy prey. For a true icon of mustelid brilliance, we need look no further than the wolverine. There's a reason X-Men chose a mustelid to represent their most naturally powerful member. Wolverine has keen senses, a heightened immune system, accelerated healing, and the intensity and aggression of a cornered beast. The wild wolverine is probably the most fearsome of all the mustelids, combining the power of a weasel with the size of a Siberian husky. This is an all-terrain killer, adapted for snow, rocky outcrops, trees, and even water. Unlike the husky and other canids, though, wolverines have a reduced skull that's more typically found in cats and hyenas, allowing for a more powerful bite force. And herein lies a significant part of the mustelid power. Not only are their bites powerful, they're highly specialized. Many mustelid jaws have a rear molar that is rotated 90 degrees to provide yet another cutting angle for tearing into flesh. And mustelids don't stop killing when their prey has been dispatched. They're known to hoard kills, frequently engaging on multiple hunts in a day, stacking up bodies like a Belgian machine gunner. Like a jaguar, the wolverine kills with a piercing bite, and using this approach they are able to take down animals as large as caribou. Their relentless attacks are as terrifying as they are jaw-dropping, and almost nothing is safe. But mustelids today are mesopredators. They're generally small, dedicated to the role of keeping little herbivores in check and leaving the large animals up to the cats and wolves. But this wasn't always the case. It may not be forever. Even wolverines can be killed, but apparently only by bears. A wolverine carcass was found with bear holes in it after it had tried to steal the bear's kill. Pretty much nothing alive beats a bear other than another bear, but the fact a wolverine even tried to take on a predator 10 times its size is a testament to how powerful these animals are. And now we come to our main topic, because the largest mustelid known, Megalictis ferox, would no doubt have stood a strong chance of succeeding. That's because Megalictis ferox was the largest mustelid we know of that has ever existed. It was the largest of a genus of ferret-related mustelids, sporting the characteristic short snout and piercing teeth. This was no ferret, though. It was a 100-kilogram crushing machine. At the back of its skull, at the mastoid bones, the width of its head matched that of a black bear. This is strongly indicative of a powerful bite. But the skull bones' crushing molars, huge masseter pathways, and robust piercing canines make it almost undeniable. And at the front were thick, heavy-set forelimbs, topped with powerful claws. It's likely Megalictis, like many of its contemporary relatives, was adept at climbing, as well as swimming and digging. This was not just an animal the weight and size of a jaguar, this was a mustelid, the weight and size of a jaguar. If you've ever seen a leopard run up a tree with a whole zebra in its mouth, you might have an idea for how powerful big cats can be, but imagine the sheer brutality that a 100-kilogram wolverine could bestow on its victims. An interesting side note here is that modern jaguars are a lot smaller than they used to be. After the extinction of most of the South American megafauna, jaguars, being the adaptable apex predators that they are, changed their diets, and over time they experienced a form of dwarfism. A jaguar less than 100 kilos is therefore a relatively recent phenomenon, starting around the end of the Pleistocene. However, go back a little further in time and a little further north in space, and cats were strangely hard to come by at all. The Cat Gap is a section of the fossil record in which fossils are scarce for North America. It's a period of around 7 million years, and its cause isn't well understood. During this vacuum of cats, other mammalian predators took up the slack, filling in the ecological niches that cats would normally occupy. Free from their feline competition, some mustelids evolved into massive hypercarnivorous forms. In Africa, the mustelid Epoch became an unstoppable pursuit predator, but in North America, Megalictis arose, capable of hunting large prey much in the way big cats would have. While perhaps not as cursorial as Epoch, Megalictis was built like a short-faced bear, and installed with wolverine firmware. In a world lacking cats, they increased in size to take advantage of all the tasty beef on the big cat menu. At the same time, the continent was undergoing dramatic transformations. Dense subtropical forests were giving way to more open woodlands and patchy grasslands, driven by global cooling and a drop in atmospheric CO2. The climate was still generally warm, but it was becoming more seasonal, with pronounced wet and dry periods. This mosaic of forest and open terrain offered a rich mix of prey and cover, perfect for ambush predators. The ecosystems that Megalictis occupied likely supported a diverse community of herbivorous mammals, including the early three-toed horses like Mesohippus, oreodonts, which were sort of pig-like cud chewers, small rhinoceroses, and even early camelids. These mid to large-size herbivores would have been fair game for a predator of Megalictis's build. But Megalictis didn't just eat meat. Its teeth resemble those of the bone-crushing hyenas, making it perfectly suited for both scavenging and murder. But since there weren't all that many predators bigger than it likely did most of its own dirty work. 20 million years before the case of the wolverine stealing a bear kill, Megalictis ferox probably would have shared its habitats with the dawn bear, Ursavis. This was an early bear genus that gave rise to some of the monstrosities we see popping up in the Pleistocene. Ursavis may have been the first undisputed bear of all, and it would have been somewhere between a cat and a wolf in size. So the tables were well and truly turned in Miocene North America, and Megalictis would have found it trivial to steal a kill from its Ursid rivals, perhaps even choosing to feed on them directly on occasion. If modern mustelids are anything to go by, it's quite possible that this beast could have brought down more or less anything that it wanted to. Before we take a look at some of those options, we're going to take a moment to say thank you for your support and your viewership. Every time you like one of our videos, it helps us on the road to making more of them, so please keep it up. And if you haven't subscribed already, please do that too. We're well on our way to making this channel work. Now, as promised, let's wildly speculate over what a bear-sized mustelid could have eaten. We mentioned before that the giant Miocene mustelids evolved into hypercarnivorous niches. The extent to which Megalictis was hypercarnivorous, is up for debate. There's no disagreement about it being one of, if not the most powerful predators of Miocene North America. But some researchers believe that rather than pure meat, there was a lot of hard material in this mustelid's diet. Bone-crushing features of the teeth are a clear sign that this mustelid didn't stop when it got to the hard stuff. But this doesn't imply an animal that was content with leftovers. Hyenas, particularly spotted hyenas, were often thought to have been purely scavengers, but the very human bias towards diurnal behavior became apparent when night vision cameras arrived. And they showed us that actually they're directly responsible for the deaths of 60 to 90% of the animals they eat. They just do it at night. So could this bone-crushing mustelid have filled the hyena niche in North America? I mean, if so, what was available to crush? Well, the early to mid-Miocene was teeming with large prey, some of it, if not all of it, just ripe for the plucking by a monster mustelid. There was the two-horned one-ton rhino, Menace. This grazed in herds across the continent at the time. There was also the weird-looking horse relative called Jaguar-Ferret, which was somewhere between a giant ground sloth and a clawed zebra, standing 2.5 meters at the shoulder and weighing around 1,200 kilos. There was the bear-dog Amphision, reaching up to the size of a grizzly bear and likely providing the only true competition for a large Megalictis species. Then, the early horse Megalictis, a donkey-sized three-toed equine that gave rise to many of the grazers of the Pleistocene. It's quite possible that all of these and more were par for the course for a generalist predator like Megalictis. The smaller animals would have been easily tackled directly, but perhaps the larger only had to worry about their very young and very elderly being taken. But given the powerful forelimbs of the most Weasel, a grab-and-tackle approach to killing was likely. Coupled with a wide gape, it is clear that Megalictis could handle animals larger than it was, though it was unlikely to have been social. Today, only otters and badgers are social among mustelids, and they aren't nearly as murderous. Otters eat fish, but also lots of crustaceans and small animals, and badgers snuffle about eating insects and mollusks for the most part. The most violent mustelids are all solitary. And it may have been this limitation that led to the extinction of Megalictis, in the face of rising competition from social feline and canid predators. Perhaps their brutality on its own wasn't enough to stand up against intelligent strategy. Or perhaps prey animals like the proto-horses simply got too fast for Megalictis to keep up with, in a world where long-distance runners would evolve to take over the reins. Whatever the cause, the cat gap was closing as Megalictis died out. But mustelids would prove harder to kill. There are still 62 species out there, and all of them consider anything smaller than them fair game. But most, too, consider almost everything larger than them simply an opportunity for more food. And if you'd like to see their dinosaur equivalents taking on animals much bigger than they are, head over to this video right now. Otherwise, that's all for this one. Thanks again for watching.